Hello and welcome to today's session. Hi, how are we doing? Welcome to IELTS Writing. We've already done speaking, reading and listening. Today is the final writing class. I mean, it's not the final class for these 4 days. Okay, and I think writing is the least liked out of all. And also something that, apart from speaking, so the thing is, students, test takers usually find speaking very difficult, but it is writing where they score the least. They might be underconfident when it comes to speaking, but they end up doing well. Writing, either boring or overconfident, and ultimately lose most marks in this section. So today we're just going to go over the writing task of the IELTS. There are 2 tasks actually here in the writing section. I've already taken you through the criteria for assessing and marking this section of the IELTS. So if you haven't seen that, please do watch that. I've explained in detail the different things you need to be careful about or look out for in the writing section, so you don't miss out on your 4 main criteria. Hi Harsh, hi Archit, hi Vishal. You can't catch me. Okay, I guess not. Knowledge of both JEE and NEET. That's a lot of knowledge. Hello. Thank you so much, Jat. Ashutosh, doesn't matter which class you're in, you should prepare like everybody else is preparing. See, template will not help because the topics will keep changing. I've given you a basic structure many times, but that also you cannot memorize, and again you will lose marks in writing because of memorized phrases. So please do not think that you can get away with memorizing a few key phrases, figuring out a template and just reproducing that for all the topics. That's never going to work. In fact, your examiners are specifically trained to look out for these things. So make sure you don't do that, okay? Now, without further ado, let's get started. Here is task 1. What is task 1 in writing? Take a look at the chart below and perform the tasks as outlined. What has been outlined? This graph shows the proportion of 4 different materials that were recycled from 1982 to 2010 in a particular country. So, name of the country is not mentioned. Most of this data is not real, and it's just assessing whether or not you can translate statistics and data into written English. Alright, you can explain what is going on. First of all, can you interpret what is happening? Because interpreting charts, diagrams, graphs becomes very important for all academic fields. This is something that you have to keep doing for research, analysis, whatever it is, right? So this is a very important skill set to have if you're going abroad for higher studies. That's why this is a part of your IELTS academic writing task. Secondly, can you explain the data in English? That's the second thing they're testing. So, interpretation and explanation both. Okay. So, here, this particular line is useful for you because this can be your intro or the beginning of your writing. So, whatever you're going to write for task 1, it's going to start with some sort of paraphrase of this first line. This graph shows the proportion of 4 different materials that were recycled from 1982 to 2010 in a particular country. Okay, so this not only explains what the chart is about or what the data is about, it also serves as your intro line when you start writing. What are you supposed to do? What does the task want you to do? Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. So you have to select the main features. Okay, not everything. So don't report everything, just the important points, making comparisons where relevant. All right. So here you need to spend about 20 minutes in task 1. You need to write at least 150 words. Okay, so you can spend not more than 5 minutes understanding and interpreting the data or data. Both are appropriate pronunciations. I know I am switching between the two. Okay, So you need to spend about 5 minutes figuring out what is being said in the graph. So what we are going to do now is that I want you to give me 5 major trends. What are trends? What are trends? The changes that have happened over time. So from 1982 to 2010. Out of this, obviously 4 are going to be about the different kinds of materials, right? Paper, cardboard, glass, aluminium and plastics, and the 5th is going to be an overall trend. Okay, so quickly look at this and I need you to start writing down the trends for me. What is it that you observe? And then we can discuss it together. I am giving you 5 minutes because you should not spend more than 5 minutes doing this. Alright, so 5-minute timer is, can I get the timer on here? Okay, I'll just do it on my phone. 5 minutes starts now. Quickly, I want 5 major trends, 4 about the different materials, and 5th needs to be an overall trend. Okay? Okay, very good. What about the other materials? One minute over, now you have 4 minutes left. So your 1 minute, precious 1 minute is gone. You have 5 minutes, 5 trends, 1 minute per trend. Look at this graph, unit, okay, it's weird spelling of unit, and tell me 5 major trends, 4 related to the 4 materials over here, and 5th needs to be an overall trend, okay? That's what you're supposed to do. You're interpreting this graph for me. So far, only Jat has given me 1 trend. If you are writing all 5 of them together, then that's good. You can take your time, that's fine. Okay, recycling rate of glass container decreased gradually between 1982 and 1980. How did you go from, probably a typo. Afterwards, it witnessed a dramatic increase. Okay, you're using very good vocabulary, superb job. Keep going. Time is going by fast. So everybody, you need to think faster. It's okay if you don't have the perfect vocabulary right now. I just need you to point out the trends. We will add the appropriate vocabulary later. We have now 2 minutes left. Only 2 minutes left. Okay, recycling rate of plastic did not even reach 10%. Yes, in the past decade, very good. But it has been 2 decades, not just 1. So we are going to look into the vocabulary that we're using. but you can just quickly point out the trends first. It's okay. It's okay if you're not using fancy words right now. I need the trends first because that should be your first step, recognizing all the different trends. Okay, you have 45 seconds left. So in the next 45 seconds, sadly, I've only seen 3 trends being pointed out. You need 5 trends to actually write 150 words. "20 seconds left. Time is up. Okay, aluminium percentage went under minimal increase between 18. After that, it faced a remarkable increase. Okay. Okay, good attempt. You've also gone full out with the vocabulary, so it seems like these sentences can make their way into the final paragraph, which is great. Alright, but yeah, I just needed you to quickly figure out the trends for me, because the first 5 minutes you're going to spend properly interpreting the data, and then next 15 minutes you can spend putting it all together in nice words, okay? So let's quickly go over everything. Let's start with paper and cardboard, okay? Paper and cardboard recycling was already 65% in 1982. So it was already quite high. It fluctuated a bit, then it saw an increase, hit an all-time high of 80%. When? Hit an all-time high of 80% somewhere between 1990 and 1994, so we can say somewhere in 1992, and then it saw a steady decline. Okay, still hasn't fallen past its original percentage, but we are seeing a steady decline in this. That's the trend of paper and cardboard, okay? For glass containers, almost half, or actually exactly half of all glass containers were being. Now you see something like 50%. Here, to make things a little interesting, you can change up the vocabulary. Instead of saying 50% of all glass containers were being recycled, you can say half of all glass containers being used were recycled, right? So here it was at 50%, saw a decline, saw a brief increase, and then a slow and steady increase ever since. Again, somewhere around 1990, somewhere between 1992 and 1993, right? We don't have to point out the exact year, that's not completely necessary. Then, coming to aluminium, aluminium only started in, so this is between 82 and 86, so it should be somewhere around 84. It only started around 1984. Then ever since that, it has seen an increase. It has seen a gradual increase with very slight fluctuation here, somewhere between 98 and 2002. And we can just overall say that even though it started late, ever since aluminium recycling has started, it has seen a gradual increase. And when it comes to plastic, slowest of all, started only well into 1990, a little before 1990, and has seen very slow growth or very slow increase ever since. Okay, and it still remains under 10% in 2010. Remained under 10% in 2010. So we don't know the data for right now. We only have the data till 2010. So that's how we are going to word it. Okay. So those were our individual trends. When it comes to overall trends, highest numbers we have for paper and cardboard, lowest we have for plastic, all right, and then trend wise, sharpest increase in aluminium and negligible increase in plastic. Already we have established that through lowest, okay, and glass is steadily increasing, so that's fine. So these are our overall trends. Overall trends mein highest, lowest is your first go to. Figure out what is highest, what is lowest in your data, right? So here highest number of highest percentage of recycling was always done for paper and cardboard. Even in 2010 it's for paper and cardboard. Back in 1982 also it was for paper and cardboard. Okay, so I think the way the data points can be aligned is like this, okay? So don't follow these markers, follow this, all right? So our pointers given over here are for the exact years given below. Don't follow these grid markers, all right? So we have the exact year also for everything. So now can we write it down? Can we write this down? How can we write this down? First trend that we saw was that paper and cardboard. Come on, I think you gave me a good sentence, Jat, so I'm going to... So we can say in 1982, paper and cardboard were the most recycled materials at 65%, post which they saw some fluctuation ever since 1990. Okay, one second. Okay, so between 1990 and 1994, this saw a sharp increase, and from 1994 to 2010, there's a gradual steady decline in paper and cardboard recycling. So instead of saying all of this information, because we only have to give 150 words, so we can just summarize this part. What we can say is that in 1982, paper and cardboard saw the highest percentage of recycling, were the most recycled materials at 65%, till we can say about 1994, paper and cardboard saw some fluctuation. There was decrease, there was increase, but then ever since 1994, we can see a gradual and steady decline. But it's not a very major or sharp decline. So we can just say gradual and slow decline in paper and cardboard recycling. All right. So when did it start? In 1982. I'm just going to write P and C for the sake of time. I hope you understand that it's paper and cardboard. Were the most recycled materials at 65%. Now we can figure out for the next, we are saying from 82 to 94, right? So for the next 12 years, there was some fluctuation. If we really want to, we can mention that which included a sharp increase in recycling between 1990 and 1994. There was some fluctuation which included a sharp increase in recycling between, what were the dates? 1990 and 1994. Hitting an all-time high at 80%. Okay? Then we can say from 1994 to 2010, there was a steady and gradual decline in paper and cardboard recycling. All right, so that's a trend for paper and cardboard. Then we need to figure out a trend for glass containers. So for glass containers, again, what is happening? Here in 1982, half of all glass containers were being recycled, right? Half of all, I'm just writing GC, were being recycled in 1982. That's the first thing we observed. There was a gradual decline till 1990, post which there has been an increase in glass recycling with minor fluctuations. So, till when was it? Till 1990. Post which there was a, we can't say we cannot call this a sharp increase, we cannot call this a significant or a dramatic increase, right? So what can we say? We can simply say that there was a gradual increase. And we can say, one second, with minor fluctuations. Then we come to our aluminum. So we can say aluminium recycle, aluminum American, aluminium British. So aluminium recycling only started in 1982 with under 10%, or we can say with around 5% being recycled. So only started in with about 5% being recycled. So what has happened since then? Since then, aluminium recycling has seen a sharp increase. So that's enough information for aluminium. It has seen a sharp increase. And what did it hit? it hit almost 50% in 2010, reaching almost 50% in 2010. And then our last one, which is plastic. So plastic throughout the years has been the lowest recycled, has the lowest percentage of recycling. Plastic recycling only began in 1990, and ever since that has seen a very slow increase and minimal increase, reaching about, still being under 10% in 2010. So plastic has seen the lowest rates in recycling starting at about or around, we can say, like 3 to 4%, 3 to 4%, or even, to me it looks like it could be 2% also. Let's see. So here is 5. Okay, let's go with 3 to 4%. In 1990, it grew slowly and minimally to around, I think we can say 9%, 9% in 2010. Now we come to the overall. Yes, because actually we can change it to saw, because we are writing everything in past tense, right? So good for pointing that out. Saw the lowest rates because we are not coming to, see, good, thank you Archit for raising that point. So the thing is, if we are seeing the data till present, okay, then we can use the present perfect tense, that's fine. But if the data ends somewhere in the past, then we can stick to simple past tense, right? So if the data actually comes to the present, then we can use the present perfect tense. But if it ends somewhere in a past year or something, then we can stick to simple past tense. It's not horrible if you use the present perfect tense, but it doesn't make sense, so you can lose marks for this. If the data comes all the way to the present, and if we are still talking about the future implications of the data, then present perfect is correct, but mostly you will only get data sets for a limited range, and that will end somewhere in the past. So past, simple past is good to go. So overall, what did we say? Paper and cardboard had the highest recycling rates from 1982 to 2010, and saw the most sharp or dramatic or drastic, sharp, dramatic, drastic, all of them you can use. Plastic, actually before that we can mention glass containers were pretty steady. So glass container recycling percentages remained pretty steady, and we can even mention, so it just went from We can say with only a short period of decline from, and when did glass container rates see a decline? 1982 to 1990. One second. Plastic was first recycled only in 1990 and saw a very slow rate of growth till 2010. All right. So that's, we do need to write an introduction. So this is how we have framed. So we came up with the trends. We framed the trends in this particular manner. And now we will just take the first line. We'll take the first line from this. And we don't have to number the points either. I was just doing this so that you know which trend corresponds to which paragraph. What we'll do is we'll just take this and we'll say the graph or the line graph, you can name it anyway. You can say chart, you can say graph, you can say line graph. Don't take this verbatim. Don't use the exact same language that is used in the question. You can simply paraphrase it a little bit. So the line graph shows the rates of, here it says the proportion. So we can say the line graph shows the rates of recycling of 4 different materials. We can name the materials from 1982 to 2010 in a particular country, right? So or another way to frame this could be shows how, I'm just trying to figure out a different way of doing this for you so that you know that it doesn't have to be exactly the same. So we just say it shows the percentages of 4 different actually this also sounds a little awkward. Okay, wait. So rates of recycling works. How 4 different materials, just want to get in the name of the materials also somewhere. So let's do this. Shows how 4 different materials, see, you can go back and forth, it's fine. Now you name paper and cardboard, glass, aluminum and plastic. Okay, so that's one way to go about it, that you're showing the percentage of them. Or again, we'll go back to the question. This graph shows the proportion of 4 different materials that were recycled. Now here, we just said the graph shows how 4 different materials, name the materials, were recycled in percentages from 1982 to 2010 in a particular country, right? So there are many ways in which you can paraphrase this. So this is just one way of doing it. You can do it in 50 different ways. All right. instead of, you don't have to name this, I just wanted to show you that it's possible to increase your word limit a little bit, that you can just name the materials here using either commas or em dashes. Correct punctuation, please, okay, and then the rest of the question. So that's your introduction. Then you give the first trend, then you give the second trend, third trend. Because we have 4 materials, we have to talk about them, and then finally the overall trend, okay. It has to be in different paragraphs. So ideally 4 paragraphs for this one, because we spoke about paper and card. First we gave an introduction. We can speak about paper, cardboard and glass containers in 1 paragraph, aluminium and plastic in 1 paragraph, and finally your overall trend is your last paragraph, okay. So ideally we can do this in 4 paragraphs, alright, and this is how you will frame your interpretation and summary of all of this. So I hope this wasn't too hard. This was like a case-based passage. You will have around 20 minutes to do this. I know everybody finds writing super boring, but this is where most people lose a lot of marks, and because of the writing section, their band score comes down. When you can easily get a band 8, you end up doing poorly in writing. You get some 6.5 in writing, and that brings down your overall band. So that's why practicing writing is very important. And this is very factual writing, so it is boring, but because you've done analytical paragraph and you have read case-based passages in reading comprehension and you've written analytical paragraphs for your board exam, this shouldn't be the end of the world. This shouldn't be too hard, okay? Yes, minimal, gradual, slight, all of those vocab words work. You're doing fine. Vocabulary की मैं एक video बना चुकी हूँ. I will link that. So today the point is not to give you vocabulary. I have already given trend vocabulary. But जब हम लोग, so we are going to do all of this in much more detail. Now my point is just to take you through what it's going to look like in the test. When you take the actual test, how it's going to be, how many tasks you have per section, how many reading comprehension passages do you have to read, what happens in the speaking. So the point of these classes is to introduce you to this. Now once you know the basic format and everything you need to do here, then obviously we are going to do this in a lot more detail. Well, I'll give you words, I'll give you trend words and everything that you need to know to make your answers better, okay? Now the next task is going to be an essay. This is going to be like an opinion piece. So you're supposed to give your opinion. This is going to be longer. So you need to write at least 250 words here, okay? And you have around 40 minutes to do this if you kept time in the first task. If you wasted too much time in the first task, then you will not be able to do this properly. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time writing 250 words for you right now. I do have model answers for both of these. I just wanted to take you through the process for the first one, so we wrote it out fully. What we'll do for this one is we will write down important points. Let's discuss important points that you can include in your essay, and then I will show you an essay. Okay, I'll show you model answers for both. I have one for task 1 also. So here, learning English at school is often seen as more important than learning local languages. If these are not taught, many are at the risk of dying out. Okay, so this is the first thing that has been said, which is the statement that people think learning English is more important than your local language, but because of this, local languages are at a risk of dying out, okay? So in your opinion, is it important for everyone to learn English? Now you have to give your opinion about this. Is it important for everyone to learn English? Should we try to ensure the survival of local languages? And if so, how? 3 things are being asked, okay? What are the 3 things that are being asked? Should everyone learn English? Should we ensure the survival of local languages? And how? Okay? So, number 1. Okay, so there are multiple ways that we can go about this. So let's go with the first one. First, should everyone learn English? What is your opinion? Yes or no? Because that will set the tone for the rest of the essay. Is it important for everyone to learn English? Clearly, you cannot really say, as somebody who is taking the IELTS test, you can't really say, no, it's not important for everyone to learn English, because you yourself know the importance of this. That's why you are putting in the time and effort to learn English, right? So here, having no as an answer will really go against you logically, but if you think you can justify it, then definitely say justify it. You can say, no, it's not necessary for everybody to learn English, only those people who want to work in major corporations, who have to travel internationally, who are a part of the international global community, policy making, stuff like that. Only those people really need to learn English. Otherwise, people should be well versed with their local language, because that's where they're going to spend their lives. This is a take that you can have. It's fine. Okay. So for the first one, I'm just going to write one here. You can either say yes or no. If you say yes, what will be your points? What are the kind of points that you're going to have? You can say that it opens up many new opportunities. You can say that, you can cite this as an example, that people from foreign countries, when they want to move to first world countries for better opportunities, they have to take tests like the IELTS, etc., to prove that they can communicate in the English language. That shows how necessary it has become if you want to aim for a better lifestyle, or more opportunities, like we've already mentioned. So you can use these tests to cite as examples also. Okay. Next, you can argue that English is important because it is a global language. It has become the common language in international global dialogues and discussions, right? English has become the common language, or the meeting ground for people all over the world. It is the language everybody uses to communicate their ideas, because it is the most widespread language in the world. Most people have English as a second language in their country. Most of our curriculum in school is in English, at least in India that's the case, right? And if you want to go for higher studies, most prestigious universities use English as the medium in their curriculum. So if you want to study in these prestigious universities, you need to know English, because that's what they use as their medium of communication, and that is how they teach their different subjects. So regardless of what subject you're studying, it is going to be in the English language, right? So these are all the points for yes. Now, if you really want to give some points for no, which is difficult to do, you can say something like, only those who want to travel, work internationally and be a part of global discourse / policy making, they need to know English. You can also give this a twist, like obviously you want people all around the world to be intellectual. You want them to be able to have their own opinions, think critically. And if you want to equip everybody with these sort of skills, then you need to train them in the English language, because a lot of reading, a lot of material that they can find on this, a lot of academic journals use English as their medium of communication. Even scientific academic journals, they have contributions from scientists all over the world. They could be scientists from Germany, they could be scientists from other European countries that don't have English as a first language, but yet all of their work is published in English. Okay, so you can use that as a very good point here, that if you want to grow intellectually, if you want your population to become more critical, more aware, then it is absolutely necessary for them to know the English language, because all scientific literature related to, social issues and economic issues, all of it is mostly published in English, right? So English is the most widespread language in academia. So you can use the word academia over here. Uses English, which is why it's essential. Otherwise, as they say, kuein ka mendak, that's what happens. So you can make this argument. Obviously, you need to flesh it out in English. But if you are that risky person who wants to say, no, I am going to go with the unpopular argument, which is no, English is not important, then you can make it India specific. Say that India has a lot of regional languages, and most people living in rural areas mainly need to be well versed in their own language, because their livelihood depends on their community, on their village. They don't have the means to go beyond that. If they are spending a lot of time learning English instead of developing vocational skills, then they are wasting their time, because there's a lot of it's not very easy for these people to actually break the barriers and get ahead and actually join elite institutions. That battle is really hard. English is not the only thing that's going to help them get there. They need to be financially sound. They need to have the kind of opportunities, for example, basic good education, for them to be able to join these elite institutions and make something of their lives. So a better alternative for such people is to actually focus on their regional language, use their regional language which they already know, to gain vocational skills, to study material that actually will help them gain practical skills that will help them make a living for themselves. So this is the kind of argument that you can give if you say no, but again you have to really properly justify it. So I'm just gonna write this down in keywords for you, because I said a lot of things. So people with less means should focus more on developing vocational practical skills instead of spending time learning English, and their local language can help them acquire these skills faster, which is why the NEP also in India wants that students should learn in their mother tongue for the first few years, because that way they will be able to understand the science better. So the first major roadblock that happens when you're trying to learn a subject, be it science, social studies or anything, is that, okay, first I need to know English, then I can understand what is being said about science or maths or SST. So that one roadblock is taken away if children are given whatever instructions they're given and they're taught whatever they're taught in their mother tongue. So that is an argument that you can use. You can even cite the NEP in India as an example. So this is the first part of your essay. Now we'll come to the second part. Should we ensure the survival of local languages? Okay, so, what is your take on this? Again, you can say yes or no. I obviously think that yes, local languages we need to ensure that they are surviving. because languages hold customs, traditions, and a lot of literature, practices that can get completely lost if the language dies. So we can say that while English is important, you can say while English is important in with the way the world is changing, that doesn't mean we should forget our roots. To keep important, but so are local languages. Another reason is to maintain the cultural diversity, of a place. And again, you need to emphasize the fact that a language is not simply a means of communication. A language that has been around for so long has a lot more attached to it. It has, for example, in India, even though Sanskrit is a dead language in terms of not being spoken anymore, not being used as a means of communication, it needs to be preserved because attached to it are years and years of books and traditions, all our wisdom literature, all our Vedas, Upanishads, everything is written in Sanskrit. Same thing for Latin, even though it's a dead language, the reason why it needs to be preserved is because a lot of extremely valuable information has been originally written in Latin. So that's why even with local languages, the death of a language doesn't mean just death of a means of communication. It means death of customs, traditions, practices, literature. Okay? So those are the points you need to make when you say that yes, we need to preserve local languages. If you're saying no, we shouldn't preserve local languages, I don't think anybody will take that take. So if you are somehow convinced that no, local languages shouldn't be preserved, then I would like to I'd like you to tell me why in the comments. Okay? And now that brings us to 3. How should local languages be preserved? Again, this is a very straightforward answer. I don't even think we need to write it down. You can just say that, it shouldn't be one or the other. So, for 3, you can say it shouldn't be either English or a local language. Both can go hand in hand. A very important example that I can cite for this right now is that if you, before I write it down, I want to know how aware you are GK wise. If you know who won the Booker Prize, it's been all over the news. Do you know the name of the book? Banu Mushtaq wrote the book. I've forgotten the name of the translator, so let me quickly get the name of the translator. Deepa Bhashti, right? So, if you keep up with the news, then you can cite this as an example. So, won the Booker Prize. It's a very prestigious prize for authors. Now, it's written in a local language, Kannada, originally, but it was translated in English. Now, if it was only in Kannada, it would not have reached a wider audience. You can look this up, Heart Lamp, okay, written by Banu Mushtaq, just won a Booker Prize. Okay, so if it was only written in Kannada, it would not have reached a wider audience. Only Kannada speaking audience of people who can read Kannada would have read or appreciated the book. Its English translation is what helped the entire world access the book. Okay, so English can aid local languages. English, it doesn't have to be English versus local languages. You don't have to make the point that you either learn English or you learn a local language, which has become kind of the rhetoric in our country lately. The English में क्यों बात करती है, हम अंग्रेज है क्या, हिंदी बोल. It really shouldn't be like that, because English can aid local languages, and English can also give literature and other written work. It doesn't just have to be fiction literature. It could be old preserved literature, old preserved customs, folk tales, music, alright, movies, any form of art that uses language. English can bolster it and it can give it a wider audience. So a Telugu movie, for example, is going to the Oscars. Why? Because it has something called English subtitles that allows people from all over the world internationally to watch and understand the movie. Similarly, you can dub movies in English. We do the vice versa also. English movies are accessible to people today because they are dubbed in Hindi, they are dubbed in Indian regional languages, and that's why people from this part of the world are able to access and watch those movies. So you can use English to popularize local languages, and that will further incentivize people to write in their languages. If a Turkish author today is writing in his language, it's because he knows that somebody will translate it, and the book will not just be in that one, just stuck in that one regional domain, right? If a author today is writing in Hindi, that author knows that their work will be translated by a capable translator who knows both English and Hindi, and that work will reach a wider audience. So a person will get incentivized to use their local language if you go hand in hand with English. Instead of making English the villain, you can use English to your advantage, right? So that's the point you can make for how. So now that I've told you everything you can write, I'm not going to waste time writing 250 words for you right now. But here are the model answers that you can take a look at. First, we'll read the answer for task 2. Then we'll go back and read the answer for task 1 and see how similar or different it is from the answer that we came up with. So here, English is a gateway to the world, and no one should be deprived of the opportunities that arise for those with a strong command of the English language. This does not mean that local languages are dispensable, however. They have an important role to play in supporting education, including English language education. So here the point that is being made is very good, that in order to learn English also, a local language is important. So if you have grown up in a household that, for example, only speaks Malayalam, you as a 10-year-old might only know Malayalam, but you can use Malayalam to learn English. You can have someone explain to you that, okay, in Malayalam we say this, but in English we say this. So using local language is as a means to learn English. People who insist on prioritizing local languages are often those who can speak fluent English themselves. Advocates of minority languages need to be fluent in English in order to research their field and support the cause at international conferences. In doing so, however, they're also demonstrating why English is so important. Learning English allows people to gain knowledge, communicate with society, further themselves as individuals, and have a global impact. It is unfair to willingly dispossess people of this ability in order to preserve tradition. Same thing that we said, that people should have access to both their local languages and English. But this does not mean local languages can be forgotten or downplayed. People are more likely to succeed not just at learning English, but in employment and education generally, if they are immersed in community rich in history and tradition. Local dialects are a part of this tradition. Efforts to regenerate and celebrate indigenous cultures in recent decades have demonstrated that the preservation of local languages and the teaching of English are mutually reinforcing developments. I gave you a very good example of this that you can use, and see here, this is a generic answer. It is not a country specific answer. But you feel free to write about your own experiences and your own country. You can give India specific examples because that's what you know most about, right? In this way, the local language serves as the bedrock for learning English rather than being an obstacle in need of removal. I think it is important for everyone to learn English, but I feel it is unnecessary to frame learning English and keeping local languages alive as conflicting possibilities. Same thing that we said in different ways. We said both English and local languages should go hand in hand and aid each other. They should not be conflicting possibilities as what is said here. Each goal supports the other. We should focus on how best to develop both English and local languages in particular local context. Okay, that was task 2. And task 1. The chart shows the percentages of paper and cardboard, glass containers, aluminum cans and plastics that were recycled in one country between 1982 and 2010, right? So just same paraphrase of the question. In 1982, about 65% of paper and cardboard was recycled. This figure fluctuated before rising steeply to reach a peak of 80% in 1994. From then on, however, it decreased steadily to a level of 70% in 2010. So this was about paper and cardboard. Then in 1982, half of all glass containers were recycled. See, they also used half, not 50%. Like I told you, you can use different words. Like instead of 10 years, you can use decade. Instead of 50%, you can use half. After dipping to a low, again dipping, word for coming down, hitting a low point, 40% in 1990, the glass recycling rate gradually increased, we use the same words, to 60% by 2010. Aluminium cans were first recycled in 1986, we made the same point starting about 5%, but this figure climbed rapidly. So we said there was a sharp increase, it rose drastically, here they've used the word rapidly. Rapidly also you can use. Over 25 years and by 2010 it had reached 45%. Recycling of plastics on the other hand was not introduced until 1990. And so here they said was not introduced, we wrote was first introduced in 1990. And although the growth in this category was also constant, it was very slow. We also said this, it rose slowly and minimally, rising from about 2% to 8%. We said 3 to 4% and I think we said 9% here, which is fine. It's around the same because you cannot see the exact data point, okay. Finally, overall the proportion of paper and cardboard that was recycled was the highest, so paper, cardboard, highest of the 4 classes of material. But this category experienced a decline after 1994, whereas there was a continuing upward trend in the recycling of other materials, okay. So they joined the rest of the 3 into 1 point. We wrote some extra points, that's fine. You can adjust accordingly as long as you're hitting the 150 word limit, okay. So that's the end of today's session. I hope that cleared out the writing section for you. Yes, it could be a bit challenging. Yes, you can lose marks in this section, but it's not very difficult once you see enough topics, once you understand how to frame your thoughts into intro, body, conclusion, basic structure, which we will be doing in a lot of detail. So Jat, you keep asking me where are the resources. I will bring those resources to you, so just stay tuned. Upcoming week, we will focus on speaking, and post that, we will focus on one section of the test every week, and we will go into very great detail. I will give you all vocab words, keywords, trend words, everything that you need to prepare for these sections, okay? Babies use Goo Goo Gaga to learn human-made language. That's absolutely true. But instead of saying this, you can, I mean, if it's a question about the acquisition of language, then you can say how acquisition of language is not just verbal, it's tactile. You touch and make associations with things. It's visual, you see and make associations with things. So you have to first make those associations mentally and then give them words. So words become the last stage. Language becomes the last stage of understanding, because you can only name something once you have understood it, right? Unknown devil. Okay, you all have like wild usernames, that's good. Best materials, like I told you, British Council, Cambridge and IDP materials. 3 of them are responsible for framing, making and rolling out the tests. So the person who is making the test will definitely have the best resource material to prepare for the test. So any Cambridge, and I keep saying you can find these Cambridge books for IELTS prep, use those because they will not derail you, they will be very to the point, okay, and they're written by people who have been involved with this test for a very, very long time. So these are your 3 resources that you need to look out for. You can also find these resources online if you're not interested in buying a book, but if you are the kind of person who is more disciplined and understands better through a book, then definitely any Cambridge resource material should be fine. Prajwal, if you think you cannot get a good band in your first try, and if you think you'll need to go for a second try, then obviously plan accordingly if you want. And also because visa requirements will have you submit IELTS scores, so you need to keep how much time you need for the visa application process in mind. And I think for September you need to take the IELTS as soon as possible. If you again are planning to go for more than one attempt, if you're not confident that you will get a good band the first time. So probably I would say next month you should be looking into, towards the end of next month you should be looking into taking the test. Of course, just like our Belgium, French is the local language. So a lot of different countries have different languages. Quebec in Canada has French as the local language. I lived in Texas for a while. There Spanish was used really widely. So everything was written in English and Spanish. So it depends on the demography of the place. All right, I will see you next time, Monday. Not tomorrow, yes, Monday. 5 p.m. is when our sessions happen. So make sure you freed up that slot. And don't forget to do. How do I prepare? You need to find a tutor ASAP if you want to learn German. You cannot learn it so quickly, but you can have baseline level of preparation. If you're, most countries will not use it as a requirement. I don't think it will be a requirement as long as you know functional English. You should be fine in these countries, but because your medium of teaching in universities will not be German. If it is German, then you need to have German proficiency. In that case, you will not be able to go until you have reached some B2 level of proficiency in the language. Okay, so to prepare depends on what is your level right now. Are you a complete beginner? You don't know the language at all? Or are you at like an A2 level and you need to get to a B2 level? It depends on that. For academic, the normal academic IELTS is fine, Prajwal. Okay, all right.